Good morning, everybody. Aloha. Welcome to Law Across the Sea. Today we're going to be talking about an interesting topic, EB-5 visa program and how it works. And I have two very knowledgeable guests today on my program, Roger Epstein and Phillip Guo. Roger is a senior Hawaii lawyer who has done a lot of international business transactions and tax matters, a lot of work with estate planning internationally. Phillip has and is an immigration attorney. That's his specialty. He's helped many international clients come into America and live here on permanent visas and do business here. So welcome, gentlemen. It's good to see you both. The EB-5 program is it has a lot of promise. It has a lot of potential, both to bring in people and to help the United States. At least that's what I've heard, but I hope you'll tell us about it. So Phillip, get started. What is the EB-5 visa program?
Okay. In short, EB-5 refers to a immigrant visa category where a foreigner can obtain permanent resident status in the United States, in other words, a green card, by investing $1 million or, in some cases, $500,000 and create at least 10 permanent full-time jobs in the United States. Basically, that is what the EB-5 refers to. It's an immigrant visa category.
And so these are people from outside the United States, and there's sort of a promise on both sides. We're going to make an investment, and you're going to be able to live here permanently. Is that?
That is correct. The law first came out in 1990. I guess the legislative intention was to stimulate the U.S. economy by attracting foreign capital investment. And in return, the foreigners will be given the benefits of obtaining permanent residence or a green card in the United States.
Okay. Roger, what's your involvement been in this type of, from a tax lawyer?
Yes. Well, I have been a tax lawyer, been doing this work for many years. I'm now an international business consultant. Right. I've retired from the practice of law. But I have done a lot of EB-5, help with EB-5. There's the main thing for EB-5 investors, they need to understand that when they move to the United States on a permanent residency, they become taxpayers of the United States.
Okay, so just let me stop you for a minute, because I want to get at the beginning of it. So,
okay.
So your idea, along with Phillip, as to the promises going back and forth. What is the
idea is that the United States wanted to create capital to promote jobs. So to get this foreign capital into the United States, they say if you invest and you create 10 jobs, then we're going to allow you to be a permanent resident here. This program actually started in Canada many years before this, where you could invest $1 million Canadian and become a permanent resident. A lot of people up in Vancouver have done this. There are some countries where you simply give the government the money. But the United States program became one tied in with job creation. So if I'm a Chinese person and I want to take advantage of this program, I find a project that has been developed by somebody. They're building a hotel, or they're creating an assisted living center, and they need capital. So I put in the capital, as Phil says, either $1 million or $500,000, and that capital goes to completing the project.
Okay, so Canadians had this idea first?
Canadians had the idea first.
And Phillip, how did we get into it, and how did we start to think about doing it?
As I said, back in 1990, the law came out saying you make $1 million investment and you create at least 10 jobs. that's when you can get your permanent residence. But for the first few years, the law was not really that attractive. Only a few hundred people used that program. But in the last few years, it really began to gain more popularity.
Okay. Now tell me a few things. Who can participate and how many opportunities are available?
Generally speaking, any foreigner who can make a personal investment, that is the key word. The money has to be a personal funds, and that money has to be lawfully acquired. And if the foreigner can document clearly the source of the funds and the path of the funds into the United States, that will qualify that foreigner to make the investment. And of course, the following up is the investment has to create at least 10 jobs. The investor himself and his family, that usually means the spouse, and the unmarried children under the age of 21 can also immigrate to the United States with the investor.
Okay, and does that allow them to, when you say creation of 10 jobs, that means 10 American jobs or 10 jobs for the family, or?
No, actually the jobs have to be created for either U.S. citizens or U.S. permanent residents.
Okay.
Maybe in some cases, asylees or refugees can also be counted toward the number of the jobs. But people who, let's say a foreign student, or people who work here on a work visa, or the family members of the investor cannot be counted.
Okay, now just going back to Roger's tax expertise, and you get a green card when you are approved for this program.
Right.
And then what happens to you from the tax angle, Roger?
Well, the program works like this, as you say, Mark. You apply for an EB-5 visa, and the application takes about 14 months to receive. Then your money's in escrow to build, let's say we're building a hotel, and as Phil said, the jobs are created by construction workers and other people in connection with building that hotel. Now you get a temporary green card, and you have 2 years to show that you created the 10 jobs. As soon as you get that green card, you become a U.S. taxpayer. Now, a non-resident alien, when you were a foreigner, before you got this green card, the only tax you had to pay to the United States was on income-producing assets in the United States. Let's say you owned a rental property in the United States. If that made money, you had to file a tax return. If you had a business in the United States. But none of your foreign income, well, let's use Chinese for example, because Phil and I have done a lot of work with the Chinese. So I've got a business in China. It makes $1 million a year. And I want to get a green card. So I put $1 million into building this hotel in the United States and creating these jobs. Once I get my green card, I'm liable for tax on all the money I'm making in China. So from an income tax standpoint, people need to be aware of that. These are serious consequences. The day before I got my green card, I was only taxable on my U.S. income. The day after I get my green card, I'm taxable on my U.S. income and all my foreign income as well.
So this is this kind of is a little bit of a trap, perhaps. If somebody is very interested in coming to the United States, making a big investment, well, we want to help the economy, but on the other hand, we're going to get stuck. Phil, I mean, do your clients know about this, and what is their position?
I think they need to be educated. Some more sophisticated clients, probably through their own reading or consulting with people like Roger, will understand the tax consequences. But also, I think many of them are kept in the dark. That's where people like Roger will come in and let them know ahead of time to know by becoming a U.S. permanent resident, there are serious tax consequences they have to plan for.
So is there any planning? That's what I'd like to know.
My experience is I've been going to China, as you know, Mark, twice a year now to give talks to the Shanghai bar and Suzhou bar and people in Beijing and lawyers since 2011. So I've been there 10 or 12 times now. And my experience is very few people know about this. They don't understand it. They're not given advice. But in the last year or so, I've been contacted much more. I've been contacted by brokers in China. I've been contacted by wealth managers in China. I've been contacted by people who are setting up the EB-5 projects themselves. And I'm now being told that investors do understand these negative tax consequences, and that's just the negative income tax consequence. So I'm seeing a change in the whole program. So more people interested in this advice.
What type of planning can they do in advance? And to avoid, can you avoid some of this, or can you soften the results?
You can restructure the ownership of your assets to soften the results. Basically, if you want to be a permanent resident in the United States, you're going to pay tax on your worldwide income. But you can restructure your ownership of assets. You can change things around. You can make gifts. There's a lot of things you could do to plan for this. Now, more than the income tax, there's a very serious issue of estate tax consequences for green card holders, and this is where planning is really critical.
Okay, let me get into that in a minute. I want to ask you, Phil, you mentioned a bit earlier that you can either contribute $1 million or $500,000. Right. What's the difference?
The original law says the investment has to be $1 million. But then 2 years later, in 1992, the Congress came up with a new concept that is the so-called targeted employment area.
Okay.
A targeted employment area, or in short, a TEA, can mean one of the two things. Number one, in a geographic area where the unemployment rate is 100%, 150% of the national average. Let's say the national average is 4%, and in a particular area, your unemployment rate is 6%, then you will qualify for the TEA. Or the TEA can also mean a rural area. In either a rural area or a high unemployment area, the employment amount may be reduced from 1 million to $500,000. But the 10 jobs still have to be created by the investment.
Okay.
That is the difference.
All right, and so it doesn't matter if it's 500 or $1 million, you still need to create 10 new jobs.
Right.
Make an investment in the United States, and then also pay taxes. You know, yippee. Now, what are your clients, I mean, why are your clients doing this? Why do they want to come to the United States? Just in general,
there are many reasons. Most of my clients are from China. Some of the parents may want their children to have a better education in the United States. In general, they want to have maybe just a better life. I've heard people saying about serious air pollution in China. They want to get away from that. Also, other families see better business opportunities. It's a combination of different reasons for people who want to move to this country on a permanent basis.
Okay, and how many opportunities are available per year under the EB-5 program?
For now, the Congress has allocated 10,000 visas a year, just for EB-5. That means that is a cap. When the 10 million number is reached, then no more people can come for that given year.
You mean the 10,000?
10,000.
Right, and are there that many people every year that want this?
Actually, yes, actually more. We don't have enough numbers. So that's why, especially people from China now have to be put on the waiting list.
Okay. We're going to be put on a waiting list ourselves right now. We're going to take a short break, and then I want to hear a little bit more about the numbers from China, especially, and if that's the big country that is making the most applications, which I think it might be. And then I also want to figure out, you come to America, with your family to make things better, and what do we do about the estate? But we're going to take a short break right now.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Chris Leatham here with Think Tech Hawaii, and I invite you to watch my show, The Economy and You, each Wednesday at 3 o'clock here in Hawaii on OC 16. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Aloha, I'm Kirsten Baumgart-Turner, and I'm fortunate to be able to host Sustainable Hawaii at thinktechhawaii.com. I hope you'll join in with us every Tuesday from 12 noon to 1 p.m. to see the interesting people we have to share with you their information. Aloha.
Aloha, this is Reg Baker. I'm the host of Business in Hawaii. We air every Thursday at 2 o'clock on thinktechhawaii.com. We broadcast from the ThinkTech studios in downtown Honolulu, and we talk about positive and successful companies in Hawaii. People that have been successful despite the obstacles. They all have a good story to tell. Hopefully we'll see you on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Aloha.
Okay, great. All right, we're back talking about the EB-5 visa program that holds out promise to people coming into the United States to live here permanently with their families, and also holds out promise to the United States that we can make economic investment and progress through these new people bringing in $1 million investment and also having 10 new jobs. So let's talk a little bit about the downsides of it too. And first of all, Philip, where are most of the EB-5 people coming from?
Well, from what I have read so far, about 75% of the investors are from mainland China. So, so we're talking about probably 7,500 visas having used by the Chinese.
Each year?
Every year, yes.
For $1 million?
Or $500 million.
Or $500,000.
Right.
Okay, now, Roger, you talked a little bit earlier about the estate planning problems and various options. And what is out there for somebody that is coming here on an EB-5?
Let me make one thing clear. Let me go back to the income tax for a little bit, Mark. First of all, you pay taxes in China. You have to pay income on your Chinese income. The tax rates aren't that much higher in the United States, and in some cases they might even be lower on your income taxes. So when the privilege of coming to the United States and being an American is you've got to pay taxes. So now you're paying taxes. In China, you're not paying double taxes, but you might be paying a little higher taxes. So let's say the wife comes here with the kids, as Phil mentioned, just to go to school. The husband may be back earning all the money. He's not a green card holder. So you think about this in terms of where you situate and what the issues are. Now, the estate tax is a whole nother situation.
Okay, so just a minute. So the income tax you pay in China, and you don't pay double.
You don't pay double. You get credit if you pay in China. If you're now a green card holder, let's say you pay 25% in China and 35% in the United States, you just give the United States an extra 10%.
So the spouse, whoever the spouse is, may come here with the children, make the $1 million investment, but not be earning any more money.
Exactly.
I see. Okay, now go on to the estate.
Okay, now estate tax is a very big issue for EB-5 people, and as we said earlier, very few know about it. So it's just becoming aware of it, and I'm seeing more people asking me to give talks about it to clients and do planning for it. So in China, there is no estate tax whatsoever. In the United States, we have an estate tax which for foreigners is only on their U.S. assets. But when you become an American, it applies to all of your assets worldwide. And once you begin to live and get domiciled in the United States, not just a green card, but once you're actually living here, then you have to pay, if you die, on your worldwide assets. On everything over $11.5 million. So that's Americans get the same threshold. But if you had $100 million of assets in China, and now you move to the United States, if you die, all of that income, all of those assets are taxed at 40%. So for the privilege of moving to the United States, if you die, you owe the U.S. government $40 million, which people need to know about before they come over.
There are things that can be done.
Yes, while you're a foreigner, you could make gifts in trust to your children. Now, all of that foreign asset, none of that is subject to the U.S. estate tax.
Are those trusts in the United States? Or?
They could be in the United States or outside the United States, depending on what the situation is. So the income tax is a commitment you made to the United States when you came here. You're going to pay taxes. You're an American. You're going to pay taxes. Mm-hmm. The estate tax, you earned all this money in China. You might argue that just moving to the United States shouldn't subject all that income you earned in China, all those assets, to be subject to U.S. estate tax. Or you might say it should be. We could argue about that. But there are ways to eliminate that before you come here. Once you're here,
okay,
it's a whole different story.
So you need to do a little bit of planning.
You need to do thinking and planning before you get into this program.
Okay. Philip, now, a lot of your clients come to the United States, I guess, with great hopes, and they are interested in the program, the EB-5 program. Ultimately, they can become a citizen through that, a U.S.
Yes.
And what are some of your positive, good stories that have happened with regard to this for both sides?
Well, for those who have successfully obtained a permanent residence, you know, they can send their children to American schools, and when the kids eventually go to college, they get to pay in-state tuition. And also, some of my clients have found excellent business opportunities in this country. So the general feedback is that they are very happy with the program because it is one of the fastest programs for a foreigner to get a green card. But of course, there's no guarantee that every single project will succeed. I've heard also failures in certain projects, and that may mean that not only the investor loses his money, but also loses his opportunity to become a permanent resident. That does happen, and we have read that on the paper all the time.
And then what happens? They have to go back to their home country?
It depends on which stage the business fails. You know, if it fails in the first stage, they don't even get to come at all. But if, let's say, they already have their conditional green card, but for some reason, the process of removing the conditions fails, then yes, probably they will have to return to their home country. And
they could lose their entire $1 million.
That is true. Actually, the law says when you make the investment itself has to be an at-risk investment.
I see.
So that should be something, you know, they are aware of.
I see. Roger, have you had practical experience with some of these?
Let me start by saying I think we need to recognize that we're a nation of immigrants. All of us, Phil's the first generation. You and I are your second, and I'm third generation. So we're a nation of immigrants. So part of the thinking with Congress is, here, an example with you want to educate your children. This is a very fine ambition, consistent with what our principles are in this country. And we're going to end up with immigrants whose children are getting really good educations and who want to make commitments to business values and the kind of American values that we like. So I just think that's a part that the government is getting out of this. This is something the United States is getting, the kind of immigrants.
And that's kind of the theory behind it, is what you're saying, too.
That's part of it. Well, you asked Phil, what do the immigrants get and what does the government get? So the government gets new jobs, which helps our economy, and it also gets the kind of immigrants who are very interested in democracy and the United States and the values that we all stand for. So I wanted to make that point, because I think that's important, especially in these days when we have all these issues about immigration. As far as failures go, I am in the middle of having rescued a failure, Mark, and I'll tell you what happened briefly. 48 people in China invested in an assisted living center outside of one of our big cities. And the developer was good at raising money, had connections in China, but didn't know anything about development and assisted living centers. He took everyone's money, he got approval from the government. All of the investors moved to the United States, got a temporary green card. Halfway through the project, it was found out that he had been taking money out of the project, that he had extended the cost beyond this was 24 million. They each put up a 500,000. 24, he'd extended it way beyond that. He needed financing. He was being investigated by the Securities and Exchange Commission and was told by the immigration people he was going to lose his license, his authority to qualify as a regional center, which I know you want to talk about a little bit. Okay, so one of the investors knew that I was involved in this. I got another immigration lawyer between myself and the immigration lawyer. Instead of these people getting deported and losing their entire investment, we've worked it out now so that the developer's out, the investors took over the project, we got a new developer. It looks like we're going to be very successful in borrowing the additional capital. And we've raised it from the grave, so to speak, and in my thinking, what a horrible result it would have been if 48 people who had moved here and their families got deported and lost their entire investment.
Especially after investing $20 million.
$24 million total.
Yeah. Let me ask you, each of you, in one sentence, okay, because we're coming to the end of our program. What advice would you give to somebody that is thinking about taking part in this EB-5 program? Philip, one sentence.
Talk to the experienced professional who has been in this business for a period of time, who can give them professional advice. That's very important.
Roger?
I would say do your planning first in, are you getting into a good investment with people who know, or are you just relying on a friend who said do this? And then the second planning would be for your tax advice, and the third would be to make sure that wherever you're moving, this is a place that you're going to be satisfied coming to the United States.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much. There's lots more to talk about this program. We can only give really the beginnings of it and a little hint of it. There are things like the regional center that we've never got into that are important also, but maybe that'll be another day.
Okay.
Gentlemen?
Mark, Phil and I go to China regularly. We've seen failures and we've seen successes. We really came on the show today with the hope that your audience would see that you can distinguish between what's going to be a failure and a success if you do this properly. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.